Welcome to Par for the Course. This is the show to be named. We're just going to do some topics of the week in and around the golf community. I have my brother Marcus. I have done a video with him in the past about his aspirations as a PGA teaching professional. So you can go check that out. I'll link that in the description as well. But we're just going to hit some topics. Marcus, say hello.
Yo, what's up, guys?
All right. So let's just review the topics of the week. So this past week was the PGA Tour event, the Pebble Beach Pro-am. Per usual, it seems like every 2 years the weather's kind of crappy in a row. They may have a decent week of weather, but this was another bad week with delays and resulting in a Monday finish, as well as PGA Tour winner for the first time in 4 years, Justin Rose, which we'll talk a little bit more about him later. We have some strong opinions on Justin Rose. So what are your thoughts on this tournament, the weak field, and just how do you view this tournament in the lineup?
Well, it's kind of funny what's happened to the Pebble Beach Pro-am with all of the known celebrities and everything for it to still be, you know, pretty much an entry level event for PGA Tour members now. It's kind of like for the rookies. It's a bigger field and still yet there's no big names. Like if Justin Rose is winning an event for this, it's pretty much letting you know who's all in there. And especially when the big names are flunking out and not doing what they're supposed to do, then it makes this a lesser event. So I don't really
So,
know where they're going to go with this.
but I think, comparing this to like TV shows like The Wire or Breaking Bad, which is more widely known, is every episode going to be good, or is that just part of the PGA Tour? Because, you get into certain events, the fields aren't going to be strong, and I'll kind of allude to why that may be here. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you still watch when it's a weaker field, when the most named player in the lineup was Jordan Spieth?
Yeah, I'll still catch a few minutes of it, but as far as my attentiveness to it, it's not the same as if a JT was leading or if a Rory, like one of my favorite players, is leading. I'm not just gonna be consumed on the TV and everything like that like I usually would be. I'll check in and make sure and see what's going on and see who the younger players are that are making the charge are, but as far as full on watching all the coverage and catching it on NBC and CBS and stuff like that, not as much anymore. I'd rather just catch the rerun and go about it from there.
Okay, so you're not watching live and in person. And I think even yesterday, for me, I was at home working, and I wasn't really sure on when they were going to finish the tournament. The times listed in the Golf Channel app didn't match up with when it actually came on. So it's very interesting in terms of how they
Right.
finished it and just scheduling around it. I wasn't aware of it at all, and I was sitting at home trying to find it.
Facts. Facts. I mean, luckily we had the Golf Channel on while I was at work, or we wouldn't even known when coverage came on live because they were playing a replay and then there was a paid programming thing, and then all of a sudden it was on live TV and they
Wow.
were back in their fairway playing golf. It was
It's
literally
kind of
just
weird.
ho hum, just yeah, the way they came into the live coverage was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's sad for a iconic venue like Pebble Beach, that it's gotten less and less attention as the years have gone on. That tournament has a huge history, but I don't know. I know it's on the California swing, but it feels very different than the other tournaments that they're playing out here on the West Coast. The weather just doesn't seem to cooperate. But I also think
Definitely.
some of the lower viewership or just lower participation also could be related to other tournaments that are played around this. So this weekend we have the Waste Management Phoenix Open that always coincides with the Super Bowl, and that's a big event. And then you have events like the following week is Riviera, the Genesis at Riviera, followed
Yep.
by the Honda Classic, the Arnold Palmer, and then the Players comes up after that. And so there's a lot of different big name events, and the Waste Management has now been elevated to one of those high end tournaments. There's a higher purse than there's been available, and so I think Pebble is definitely struggling from that. And I don't know if you keep that tournament there, move it further back in the season when maybe the weather's going to cooperate. I don't
Yeah.
know. It doesn't seem to be a priority of the PGA Tour at this point. But that leads into kind of this week's Waste Management Phoenix Open. How do you feel about this tournament? The whole vibe and just the kind of drunken happiness that goes on at this tournament. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess when I first started playing golf, it was a fun event. Then, as I became a little bit more serious about golf and I found myself becoming a golf purist, I was more like, this is goofy. I don't necessarily like all of the drunkenness, like, especially on number 16, the famous part three. Like,
Yeah.
you throwing beer cans all on the green and stuff because somebody made a birdie putt. It's like, they're trying to win money, and yeah, we're having a fun time. But now look at all the riffraff and stuff that's going to be on the green that they got to clean up. Now, 30 minutes later, somebody's still hitting practice swings on the tee box because they're waiting for you to clean up the green. So
Yeah.
now I'm back at a form where it's like, you know what? The PGA Tour is looking for views, it's looking for money, it's looking for revenue. All these fun type events where the crowd is more interactive and involved, I think it is a good thing. So I have flip flopped back and I am on the winning side of things here. I definitely think that they need more interactive things like this on the tour just to get more eyes on the tour, especially if just like what they're doing with the Live Tour and making it more fan friendly and 54 hole events and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of the Live Tour and everything like that, but you gotta sometimes take from your enemies and make sure you're still putting out a good product. So if they're
Yeah.
doing, shorter events and more exciting events, then, why not take something from that? But I am definitely a fan of the waste management, to put
Okay.
it simply.
Yeah, I made a video about this last year in terms of the environment, and I think it's fun. I think it's gets people involved in it. It's a great spectacle. It always comes down to the 18th hole, many times a playoff in this event. But I agree,
Yeah,
the 16th for me got a little bit too raucous. I always understood it when they had a hole in one. That made all the sense in the world. But simply getting a
definitely.
birdie on this hole, resulting in cans flying all over the place, I think that is a little bit of overkill, and it doesn't add to the tournament in any way. I think you can have fun. That hole can be loud and rowdy, and overall, you just hear the buzzing throughout the entire tournament when they're on other holes. But I think the beer can throwing, especially some of the video I saw last year, where a lot of those cans came close to hitting players. I don't know. It just feels like
Right.
that's one, wrong toss away from going the wrong way. Somebody gets smacked in the face with the beer can, and then we have an issue. So I don't know. I'm still 50-50 on that. Would you like to see more tournaments that are kind of rowdy like that? Maybe not necessarily just the drunken madness that Phoenix is. It's a golf town, I get that. But would you like to see more tournaments that have kind of the craziness and just people buzzing around and maybe not so silent? What are your thoughts on that?
I think they need to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more entertaining. Maybe not the whole event, but kind of like what Waste Managers is doing. If you specify a hole, maybe like a drivable par four on a different event or something like that, a hole that's
Mm,
gonna create excitement.
yeah,
Why don't you put more stands around that? Make that more of a venue for people to come and watch. That way they can be entertained and have some raucous crowds there. Because I feel like, they don't really predicate to that when they're making their tournaments and when they're making their whole assignments and stuff like that. They're just making it to where like, okay, like we can kind of put a few stands here, we can put a few stands here,
yeah,
along the way. They don't really try to specify a certain hole or a certain run in the course, like in an amen corner in the Masters, 11,
right.
12, 13. It's very popular, it's very well known, and people try to gravitate towards that part of the course. That's what more courses need to do to make it a little bit more appealing for fans and things like that. So I
Yeah,
mean,
move tee
like,
boxes up or something like that just to create the drama.
exactly.
I think there's a hole at Riviera that's like that. That's a drivable par forward, and
Number 10.
oftentimes crowds are piled around that hole. But again, I think having some stadium aspects of it where, you know, let's say you see a lot of drives going out left there, but have just the stadium, you know, effect to capture some of those, and just kind of it would create that atmosphere with fans kind of just over the top of players. You see that a lot on Corn Ferry events
Yeah.
that I've viewed on TV or been in personally, that they kind of create that, even though the crowd sizes are very different.
Hmm.
I think you can see that. So I agree. There is some merit to that. And we'll touch on the live part that you alluded to earlier, just a little bit later here. Um, so cool. So yeah, we need more entertainment in the PGA Tour. It
I
is
mean,
getting kind of stuffy.
yeah, you think about like most of the courses that we keep running through, like even just the Valspar, they have like the nicknames that they have for their four last holes, or like the Wells Fargo event at Quail Hollow, the Green Mile. When you have nicknamed stretches of holes, why don't you do more for that? Put more stands there, put more fans there so that we can see what's really going on. I don't want to just always be looking at Jim Nance or hearing, the guys talk about it on TV. I want to be in the action. I want to know what's
Yeah.
going on throughout that whole stretch, through that 3 hole stretch, through that 4 hole stretch. It's,
Yeah.
just, you should, I just feel like they should be making more of an effort to spotlight that more.
Yeah. Marketing is definitely underrated on the PGA Tour.
Agreed.
But I think they're being forced into some decisions. Last year, you know, with Live coming around, PGA Tour partnered up with Netflix and agreed to do kind of a uh hard knocks type series that the NFL does, called Full
Yep.
Swing, that will be released. I'm not sure if they're going to be doing all the episodes or just kind of doling it out week to week just to keep the drama up. But what are your thoughts
Yep.
on the PGA kind of releasing this now? Wish they had done it earlier in January in the year when we were kind of in the downtime, but now we're in the full swing of the season. It would have been a good lead up. But
Yep.
are you excited to watch it? What are your thoughts on the PGA kind of giving us more access?
I'm excited to watch it. I think anytime you leave vulnerability for yourself as a person outside of golf, I think that's always going to be enlightening. And I think things like, being able to hear from both sides, because, through the trailers, you could tell they have, players from both sides. And it's kind of a deal where it's like, I want to hear what you really have to say. And things like this allow you to do that. You're not getting interviewed in front of 40 different reporters that are going to put it on a newspaper, a newspaper or a blog or something immediately. This is right in front of the camera and we get to hear it raw. And so I think that's going to be fun. And I think in the same aspect that we were just talking about, I think that'll give us a good aspect of, get into the players, more eyes and more views, and trying to get more fans to be drawn in to see what we can do about it. I think ultimately this is going to be a good idea for them. So hopefully they don't drop it all at once, and we can get a chance to see it week by week or month by month or whatever, and let it have a little drama and a little lead up to it, just like what you were saying, as if it would have been dropped in January in a slow month. I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. And I've been catching Golf Channel on Mondays, and they have a program called The Cut. I don't know if it's been on there forever. I just started catching it for whatever reason. It could be new for this year, but it's been very insightful. They did a quick little blurb a couple weeks ago on like Will Zalatoris. I thought it was amazing just to see players opening up. You know, we usually get these sanitized interviews from players that they don't give much insight. Um, or it's awkward. I've been watching John Rahm give interviews since he's been in the spotlight here lately, winning,
Yeah.
and it's clear he hates interviews. Like, he's got smart ass comments, but I think seeing them on film, kind of raw, like you said, just not scripted in front of a press conference, is going to be amazing. I think they said that by episode 2, a lot of the drama with PGA Tour and Live is going to really spark off, and we're going to see a lot of the background on how that came about. And some of the drama that surrounded those moments early last year. So very
Yeah.
excited about that next week. Hopefully they drop it at in the midnight hour. I'll stay up late or whatever, but just to not piss my wife off this year. So
Definitely.
that leads into the live conversation. So this is kind of the golf tea, as you will, conversation, just about rumors and speculation around this. Last week there was a story that said that 36 acres in northern Augusta was purchased, and the speculation was that it was purchased by LIV, which that's not enough to constitute a golf course, given that
Yeah.
Augusta National is 365 acres itself. So it already was questionable, but a lot of hype surrounding it. Tell me what your thoughts are on people really kind of grasping for anything news related to LIV, which I will note that they're not silent about any of their developments. Anytime they've had a player that they were going to steal away from the PGA Tour, they were announcing it and really loud and out loud about it. But LIV was very silent on this. But the rumor mill kept going. What are your thoughts on all the hype around LIV? And if you could put yourself in the shoes of somebody that's a fan of LIV, what are they
Mhm.
thinking when they're like, "Oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread"?
I think when you're led by a guy like Greg Norman, who is trying to incite a bit of drama in himself, I think things like this are going to happen. And if you're involved in Live or on the side of Live, then you like that. You want more drama. You want more exposure to your name so that people are going to Google it. People are going to search it because there's still a wide variety of people that aren't very, in the news, on the golf channel, things like that. They just play golf and go about it that way. So there is still people that are unknowingly knowing about, Live and things like that. So any type of thing like this is like, oh, Live is in there. They're gonna search Live, or we're gonna find out about Live. And it's like now it's a whole ordeal about can they compete with the PGA if they're on the like stages and stuff like that? So,
Right.
when you're talking about going to Augusta and you're talking about building property next to Augusta, then they're going to be like, "Oh, are they going to try to build an event that's going to be, similar to the Masters and run it every year in Augusta?"
Ex-
I
exactly.
think
And
that's stupid.
and that was the rumor, is that they were going to hold it either the week before or the week after the
Yeah, the week after.
Masters. It's like, come on now.
Goofy.
It's it is kind of goofy, and it just really does speak to the drama that Greg Norman brings to this, and that it's, if you want to grow the game, which has been their tagline and marketing slogan, things like that don't grow the game in terms of just
Exactly.
creating manufacturing drama to compete with the PGA Tour. When you are trying to do your own thing, you create your own lane, whether it be for them the 54 hole events, which we don't love. I want a full golf tournament. The
Agreed.
shotgun starts. It's kind of, I don't know. To me, that's kind of lame. You can take that for what it is. I think the PGA has instituted some of the filming techniques and brought it over from LIV in terms of Pro Tracer more often, different
Hmm.
angles. Yes, they're showing less putts. I'm noticing that more golf shots into greens, and I think there's things that, yeah, the PGA Tour was forced into adopting marketing better, whether it be the
Agreed.
series or just kind of, again, the coverage, instituting newer names into the golf, commentators, positions on the
Yep.
course. It's getting younger. I get it. But the way that Liv goes about their approach, I'm not a fan of it. Again, if you're trying to do your own thing, do your own thing, create your own avenues for success. You don't necessarily have to pick and nag at the PGA Tour, because I did a video on their plan and what it was going to take for them to be profitable. So you have the two
Hmm.
arguments. Was this done as an investment deal because it is funded by the Saudi Public Investment Fund, or is this a sports washing deal? I don't know which one it is. I think it's sports washing at the end of the day. So they don't really care if they make money back. But again, they're not going about it in a way that's going to clean up their image. So if
Agreed.
your idea is to sports wash, being contentious about everything doesn't get you there. But if your idea is to make money, they were planning on signing like the top 12 players from the PGA Tour. That includes Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, which clearly they're not going over,
Right.
creating their TGL league and all these different things. So I don't know. I'm just not a fan of LIV. I don't think it's a good business model, and I also don't think it's a good sports washing model. They're not going about it in a way that's diplomatic. So I
Agreed.
don't know. That's my final thoughts on that part. What else? What else do you think about the LIV component?
I don't mean to wrap around back to Greg Norman, but when things like this come out, it really makes you realize why Rory and Tiger were coming out and saying that Greg Norman needs to go. If they're going to have a rapport, if they're going to have some type of semblance of some type of relationship to where these guys can compete on both tours or have some exemptions into some of these limited field events, then you're going to have somebody that's going to be more of a pacifist. Greg Norman has been out and had a lot of animosity for the PGA Tour for a long time. And
Yeah.
if you're going to have somebody like that, it's never going to work out because that's his history. And the history of the PGA Tour doesn't want that. So you're going to have to find somebody different that's going to want to work with the PGA Tour. He wants to compete and beat it. And then he's going to talk shit about it. We don't want that. We want this to be a bigger game. That's why the DP World Tour gets together. That's why the Asian Tour gets together and they make relationships so that all these fields can have bigger names, lesser names, more money. And then it's all coming together under one semblance of golf. So it all comes
Yeah.
together to wrap it around and grow the game. This is not going to grow the game if there's so much animosity and so much rivalry. It doesn't need to be a rivalry. We already have that. We have the Ryder Cup. We have the Solheim Cup. We're not going to create a different one just because of this.
Yeah, but that'll be interesting as well, given that these players are exempted. And I get it. Some of the LIV players are older in age, and so they wouldn't even be competing on Ryder Cups and President's Cups events.
Yeah,
But I don't know. You're missing out on guys like Cam Smith, who's in the peak of his career. He won't be participating in terms of at least what they're saying in terms of who's going to qualify. That have to be a certain ranking on the official world golf ranking points, and that's a whole nother conversation that we'll probably have at some point. But
yeah.
I think yeah. I think I didn't want to spend a lot of time on LIV, but it does invoke passion, and it seems to be coming up in the news more frequently, whether we like it or not. It's here. I say at least for the next couple of years, particularly
Yeah,
with this TV deal that they received. That'll again, we'll see if they can compete with the Gilmore Girls over there on the CW. But it's
right.
been a good first episode. I appreciate you joining me, Marcus. Y'all click subscribe. Watch some of the other videos on the channel, particularly featuring this man. We did a couple of videos last year on just golf and just kind of chopping it up. So lock in with us. Again, hit that subscribe button, hit the like for the algorithm, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.